ভজ গৌরাঙ্গ কহ গৌরাঙ্গ লহ গৌরাঙ্গের নাম রে যেই জনা গৌরাঙ্গ ভজে সে হয় আমার প্রাণ রে যেই জনা গৌরাঙ্গ ভজে সে হয় আমার প্রাণ রে
Devotees, and welcome to today's session. How are you doing? I pray that all is well with you and your families at this time. So we're continuing with our study of the Caitanya Charitamrita in the forms of teachings of Lord Caitanya, and we start with the invocation. Vande Gurum Isabhaktam Isya Isavatarakam Tat Prakasham Tachat Shakti Sri Chaitanya Samyakam Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. So we're catching our study at the introduction, and we're catching it at this point where Prabhupada was explaining Krishna is not come under the illusion of this material world when he takes birth here. So Prabhupada was quoting from Bhagavad Gita 4.6. So let's see what Prabhupada says here. Where Krishna says to Arjuna, when I appear in this world, I do so by my own internal potency. Bhagavad Gita 4.6. Where Krishna says, Ajopi san avyayatma. Ajo, aja, means I'm unborn. So Krishna deliberately explains that I am unborn. So how did he get born? So he says, I am the unborn, aja. Then he explains, Ishwaram bhuta rupisam. But I'm the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I'm the primeval Lord. So he establishes that I come down to this world. So if I'm unborn, how do I come down here? And Prakriti Swamanistaya, that this material energy is coming under my direction. And how does he come down? Sambhavat Atma Mayaya. When I come down, it's by the energy of my Yoga Maya, not this Mahamaya. Sambhavat Atma Mayaya, Mamayaya. He says Sambhavat Atma Mayaya is from my engine, my energy, my Yoga Maya potency, not from the material energy. So Krishna is clarifying without a doubt. If you read this 4.6 verse, he's clarifying without a doubt that when he comes down, it's not under the illusion of the material world. Sambhavat Atma Mayaya. It's from my material, it's from my internal energy, my Yoga Maya potency. From that I'm coming down. Not I'm unborn. I'm not taking some birth here like a normal person, like all the prophets did. So Prabhupada goes on to say, thus we should not think that Krishna is overpowered by the material potency when he is in the material world. Neither Krishna nor the incarnations ever come under the control of the material nature. So we can see even the incarnations that come down don't come under the influence of the material nature. Prabhupada was saying yesterday, even the pure devotee doesn't come under the influence of the material energy. They come under the Daivim Prakriti Ashrita. We read this from 9th chapter Gita. Mahatmanas tumam partha. Those who are Mahatmas, Daivim Prakriti Ashrita. They take Ashraya, shelter of Daivim Prakriti, not this Prakriti, material Prakriti. So Prabhupada makes a very interesting point that if the devotees are taking shelter of that and transcend, then can you imagine the Supreme Lord being under that energy? How is that possible? Let's see. Prabhupada says, they are totally free. Indeed, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, one who has a godly nature is actually defined as one who is not affected by the modes of nature, although in material nature. So this word Prabhupada is talking about is adokshaja, is beyond the senses and beyond the three modes of nature. Even said that in Gita, Traiguna Vishaya Veda, Nistraigunya Bhava Arjuna. So the modes work under the illusion of the material energy, and that binds us here. The three modes bind us through the illusionary potency. Through the Maya potency, the three modes binds us here. So Prabhupada goes on to say, If even a devotee can attain this freedom, then what to speak of the Supreme Lord? If the devotee can be free from the modes of nature and the illusion of this world, then how the Lord, then when he's taking birth, he comes under the material energy and he has a material form. You hear this a lot in Hinduism, that the Lord takes avatar. Huh? 1 minute Radha Krishna is sitting and next thing you see some agrabati was lit in the background, and next thing boom, Radha Rani is sitting alone there. Krishna ran away. Oh Prabhu, what happened? Oh, I'm taking avatar. I'll be back. Yada yada hi dharmasya. I'm going to sort out the dharma. So don't worry, I'll be back. You just relax for a little bit. You chant Hare Krishna. So this is not the way. Krishna is saying, I never come under this illusionary energy. I have my own potency, Yoga Maya. And Prabhupada is making the point here that if the devotees are taking shelter of the Lord and they transcending, how the Lord that can be bound? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Therefore, spirituality also has to make sense. It's logical. And we're showing how it's logical, step by step. So Prabhupada goes on to say, the real question is, how can we remain unpolluted by material contamination while in the material world? And that is the point of contention. How can we be free from the illusionary energy while here? How can you go into water without getting wet? Well, there is a way. That is Bhakti Yoga. Because if there is a way, then you can be connected to that spiritual energy and still be here in the material world. You'll still be free from the duality of this world. And that is the point, that we want to be free from duality. Once we understand that everything operates and works in duality, once you're free from duality, then there's no happiness and distress. There's no hot and cold. You see, freedom from duality. So how do you get to that point of freedom from duality? You have to understand duality. You have to study duality. Na sato vidyate bhavo. We were discussing this. So this is why the devotee is free from duality, because he's taking shelter. We are all suffering our duality. That's all. Everything here is dual. Nothing works here without duality. So once we understand the concept of duality and how to transcend duality, by surrendering to the Lord's internal energy, diving prakriti ashrita, take shelter of the internal energy. This is Radharani. That's why Prabhupada said, when you're chanting Hare Krishna, you pray to her, my dear Srimati Radharani, please engage me in the service of the Lord. This is the meaning of Hare Krishna mantra. So we are taking shelter of that energy, not of this material energy. So there's no more duality. So let's see what Prabhupada says here. Srila Rupa Goswami explains that we can remain uncontaminated while in the world if we simply make it our ambition to serve Krishna. It's as simple as that, isn't it? Just make it your ambition. That means you have to, ambition means what? You have to be ambitious. Are you ambitious to achieve Krishna? Are you ambitious to make Krishna your goal? Ambitious means you have a drive. Utsahan, nischaya, dhairya, tat karma pravartanat. Utsahan, you have enthusiasm. You have to be ambitious, but be ambitious for Krishna. Make it your ambition. Let's see what he says. One may then justifiably ask, how can I serve? It is not simply a matter of meditation, which is just an activity of the mind, but of performing practical work for Krishna. In such work, we should leave no resource unused. So this is it. Because we see the Mayavadis, right? I mentioned this point before. They renounce the whole world and then they go and start food relief programs, practical welfare work. Then they engage in philanthropic work. So if you just gave up the world, why are you going back to the world and opening big food relief centers and doing philanthropic work? Why are you doing that? Because that becomes your energy is being used for that. So you haven't understood energy. You haven't understood how to use energy. You are now, Maya has just tricked you to use all your energy to serve humanity. So what happened to your practice of spirituality, Prabhu? What happened to going back to Godhead and becoming a perfected being? Your perfection now, your goal has changed. You're not focusing on the objective of becoming a perfect being anymore. Now you're serving humanity. You became a humanitarian. So why did you have to make a whole big drama of giving up the world and renouncing sannyasi? Other people are doing better job. World Health Organization, Red Cross, Food for Life. They all are normal people in this world, and they're doing the same thing you're doing. So do you see the fallacy of what that is? So this is why they won't accept it. But devotee is achieving all of that and more. He's achieving Krishna. Why? Because he's ambitious for Krishna. He has ambition for Krishna. This is what you should have drive for. This is what you should have ambition for. Be ambitious for Krishna. So Prabhupada goes on to say, whatever is there, whatever we have, should be used for Krishna. We can use everything, typewriters, automobiles, aeroplanes, missiles. If we simply speak to people about Krishna consciousness, we are also rendering service. So this is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's instruction. Jare deke tare kaha, Krishna upadesh. Whoever you see, jare deka. Whoever you see, deko, deka. Krishna upadesh. You tell them something about Krishna. Talk about Krishna. The whole world is talking about all this mundane thing which nobody benefits from. You only benefit materially. But nobody else benefits from it spiritually. That's why they're not satisfied. Speak to them about something that will satisfy them. Let's see what Prabhupada says. If our mind, senses, speech, money and energies are thus engaged in the service of Krishna, then we are no longer in material nature. You see how we transcended material nature? Did we renounce anything? Did we reject anything? Is it a matter of being a woman or a man or a child or a dog? No. It's a matter of consciousness. And we've just transcended the whole material nature simply by Daivim Prakriti Ashrita, taking shelter of the divine energy under Krishna. So Prabhupada goes on to say, by virtue of spiritual consciousness or Krishna consciousness, we transcend the platform of material nature. It is a fact that Krishna, his expansions and his devotees, that is, those who work for him, are not in material nature, although people with a poor fund of knowledge think that they are. So this is the point. You take shelter of Krishna through his Daivim Prakriti, divine energy, Srimati Radharani, and you engage in Krishna's service. You don't have to give up anything. You don't have to change anything about your life. From wherever you are, you just start from there. Do something for Krishna. Become ambitious for Krishna. This is Prabhupada's point. Beautiful, isn't it? And so practical. So practical. Everybody is concerned. Oh, I have to give up my house. Mataji is worried. This Prabhu going to take sannyas now? One fight in the house and he's ready to take sannyas. He grabbed the broom and everything to show, I got danda now, I'm going to take sannyas. And you are thinking, I have to wear saffron and I have to go and stay in the temple and I have to preach Krishna consciousness. I can't remember my own name. How I'm going to learn all the slokas? Nothing like that. Just speak about Krishna. What do you know about Krishna? What's Mahaprabhu's instruction? Jare dekha, tahe kraha, Krishna upadesh. Whoever you meet, just say something. What convinced you about Krishna? What inspires you about Krishna? Talk about that. You'll give somebody something that can change their life. You're not going to give them something that millions and millions of dollars cannot give what you'll give them in a few minutes. You'll give them peace of mind, satisfaction of heart. You can't get that through material energy. It's inert. It's Prakriti. How can it give you satisfaction? It can just tickle our senses and give us happiness. That's the greatest thing we're searching for in this world, right? But we have no satisfaction. Happiness and satisfaction, two different things. We are searching for immortality. Caitanya Charitamrita, immortality of the soul. Just see where we are going with this. How deep this is. Prabhupada goes on to say, the Caitanya Charitamrita teaches that the spirit soul is immortal and that our activities in the spiritual world are also immortal. The Mayavadis who hold the view that the Absolute is impersonal and formless contend that a realized soul has no need to talk. But the Vaishnavas, devotees of Krishna, contend that one who reaches the stage of realization, he really begins to talk. Because they keep this monovrat. They keep quiet, monovrat. They don't talk. So it's good in the sense that you don't talk anything material. But if you're talking spiritual, why not talk? Give people spiritual knowledge. This is what we're doing. This is the goal of devotees. This is Mahaprabhu's instruction. So if you have nothing spiritual to say, especially coming from authorized scripture, better keep quiet. Then, very good, better keep quiet. Because two things you'll do. You'll contaminate the air because your knowledge is imperfect, and you'll misguide innocent people. Especially if you're somebody who's prominent in the society. Yad yad acharati shreshtas tat tat eva tarojana sayat pramanam kurute lokas tat anuvartate. That for one who is famous in the society, the whole world pursues what he does by his example. So be careful that if you are famous and you are leading people and guiding people, don't mislead innocent people. Follow Bhagavad Gita, follow what Krishna is saying. It's perfect knowledge. That's why Prabhupada said, I'm not creating anything new. I'm simply repeating the words of my spiritual master, and I'm simply repeating the words of the Vedic version, the Vedas. So Prabhupada goes on to say, previously we only talked of nonsense. The Vaishnavas say, now let us begin our real talks of Krishna. So we can see whenever Chaitanya Mahaprabhu met anyone, he spoke to them. Rup Goswami, 10 days. Sanatan Goswami, 2 months. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, Prakashananda Saraswati. We wouldn't have had this book, Teachings of Lord Caitanya, if Lord Caitanya didn't speak. Can you imagine? I'm self-realized soul. I just keep monovrat. I don't talk. So Buddhists are in this idea a bit. We see Siddhartha, Buddha. Lord Buddha was in this mood. He wouldn't talk for many, many days. Why? Because there's nothing to talk about. Everything is nirvana, shunyavad, formless. What are you going to say about the formless? It doesn't move. It's not cleavable. It's not burnable. It's not what it is. Can you imagine if I'm describing? This is so ludicrous, it just doesn't make sense. Can you imagine if I'm describing you? I'm saying, no, you're not Indian, you're not South African, you're not human. Then what on earth are you? It doesn't make sense to say not. A negative doesn't give a positive answer. Do you see that? So the Mayavadis, this is their philosophy. They're saying 90, 90, 90, 90, 90. It's not this, it's not this, it's not this, it's not this. Then what on earth is it? We don't know. You can't describe it. It's formless, all powerful, all powerful, all merciful, all this thing. But what is it? We don't know. What it is it's Krishna. Why don't you admit it's Krishna? If you admit it's Krishna, you can completely change your life. This is what it's saying. Krishna is saying, you're looking for me, but you don't know. So Prabhupada goes on to say here, in support of the view that the self-realized remain silent, the Mayavadis are fond of using the example of the water pot. So this is an interesting example. Let's see, because it always comes up by the Mayavadis. Let's see what Prabhupada says here. Maintaining that when a pot is not filled with water, it makes a sound, but that when it is filled, it makes no sound. Now, is that a fact? Surely if you hit a pot, you hit anything, it makes sound. So firstly, that's a defective philosophy. You're giving an analogy that is not true. If you hit anything, it will make a sound. Whether it's full or not, there is some sound that's coming out. So you can't say there's no sound. Right? So there's a first defect of the philosophy, that you're giving an analogy that is incorrect. Let's see the second thing. But are we water pots? So Prabhupada now is going on to say further that you're giving an analogy to human beings, but can you really compare us to water pots as an analogy? An analogy means you must have certain common ground, right? I think Prabhupada says that here. Let's see. How can we compare them to? A good analogy utilizes as many similarities between two objects as possible. A water pot is not an active living force, but we are. Ever silent meditation may be adequate for a water pot, but not for us. Indeed, when a devotee realizes how much he has to say about Krishna, 24 hours in a day is not sufficient. It is the fool who is celebrated as long as he does not speak. For when he breaks his silence, his lack of knowledge is exposed. So Prabhupada is saying here, if you got nothing to say, don't say anything. So you see, when you're giving an analogy, they are saying that, when you fill the water with a pot with water, then there's no more sound. There is still sound. The sound is different now. It's not the empty sound. It's the full sound. So your analogy is not correct. So Prabhupada is saying there's no similarities between an empty pot and human beings. Well, they do say empty vessels make the most noise. Now we can see where that analogy comes from. Is this Mayavadis? So Prabhupada is saying that there must be similarities. What is the similarity between a human being and a pot? There's no similarity. So one is conscious, one is not. So how do you take a conscious experience and give an unconscious example to explain it? It's the wrong example. Because I just defeated that example now by saying it's making a noise, but it's not making an empty noise. So your analogy is not correct. So it doesn't make sense. So Prabhupada goes on to say, the Chaitanya Charitamrita shows that there are many wonderful things to discover by glorifying the Supreme. So I think we had a wonderful discussion today, and Prabhupada just smashed this Mayavadi idea of he's not out to hurt anyone. Please understand that. Our intentions here, we are not attacking the person, we are attacking the philosophy. Why? Because this philosophy is misleading people. You're taking people away from devotion. You're taking people away from bhakti by saying we are all one, and the sound from inside the air, from inside the pot and outside the pot is the same. This is nonsense. It's total nonsense. It doesn't make sense. Even the analogies don't make sense. So you can see this Mayavad philosophy really doesn't hold any water in the pot. So we'll stop on that note. Please join us again tomorrow for our continuation of this wonderful study.